We, the undersigned civil society organizations, there are 23 of us here who have signed this statement, human rights defenders, citizens, grassroots movements, and champions of accountability strongly condemn the escalating, coordinated, and lawless campaign of intimidation leveled against the Institute for Social Accountability, TISA, its executive director, the entire team, and other Okoa Uchumi campaign members.
On Thursday, July 2nd, 2026, at least 13 suspected state security officers in 4 Subarus attempted to gain entry into TISA offices. Operating entirely outside the legal procedures prescribed, the men aggressively demanded the identification and surrender of the lawyer who works at TISA. This pattern of state-led attacks and intimidation of vocal human rights defenders is clearly visible. The regime has previously unlawfully rendered Kenya Human Rights Commission staff member Martin Mavenji to Uganda and continues to refuse his return to be reunited with his family. This intimidation escalated further a year ago when a suspected state-hired goons attacked a press conference organized by the Kenya Human Rights Commission and Inuka Kenya at Kenya Human Rights Commission offices, injuring one of their board members. The press conference had brought together mothers of victims of police killings and enforced disappearances, alongside journalists, to call on the regime to end killing and disappearance of their children. An appeal the goons were evidently sent to silence. Additionally, the state denied Brian Karongo of the Open Society Foundation entry into Kenya and unlawfully returned him to South Africa, despite his having legally resided and worked in the country for decades. It did not stop there. During the June 25th commemoration this year, police arbitrarily arrested and forcibly disappeared 7 human rights defenders, who were later found abandoned and tortured in different parts of Nairobi. The 7 were Frederick Ojiro, Collins Otieno, Muteti Mulinge, Elisha Alam, Michael Ngugi, Christine Lubanga, and Davis Luchuma. Abdulaziz Molu, Michael Olo Osura, and Macmillan Kiare Mugo are still forcefully disappeared, even though the unlawful arrest happened before the June 25th commemoration. This is not law enforcement. It is organized state-enabled terror against citizens exercising their constitutional rights. The continued deployment of armed, masked, plainclothes, and unidentified security personnel operating alongside or in protection of state-sponsored goons have become a defining feature of assault in Kenya's civic space. These actors routinely operate outside the law, conceal their identities, use unmarked vehicles, carry out unlawful arrests, enforce disappearances, assaults, and intimidation, while enjoying apparent protection from accountability. This coordinated architecture of repression must be dismantled immediately, and those responsible, whether planned, commanded, facilitated, or protected, their operations must be investigated and prosecuted. And might I add, even before the next person comes in, this state of lawlessness, we have seen it before. We have seen these precepts in our country. And I do not know when the state wants a wake-up call, when mothers will be carrying dead bodies of their children before they can get a wake-up call. The state has the monopoly of violence, and we cannot allow them to normalize killings in our country, abductions, and the things that we continue to see going on. Human rights defenders should be allowed to do their work. Government should be able to rebut and give evidence if they feel it's wrong. The fact that they are intimidating, using masked men, hiding the number plates of cars shows the clear intimidation and attempts to create fear and cripple people to not be able to speak. We are not a Moi regime. We are in a 2010 constitution. And unless we as a people of Kenya wake up, we are going to lose our very rights in one of the best constitutions that we have ever seen.
Thank you. Kevin.
The actions of the security agencies and their proxies fly directly in the face of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. We remind the states and the National Police Service of the explicit constitutional boundaries and obligations contained in Articles 10, 29, 33, 36, and 244 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 in the ongoing harassment and intimidation of civic actors. Through strategic litigation initiatives, mostly led by actors here today, Kenya's judiciary has repeatedly drawn a line in the stand against rogue police actors, tactics, and the closing of civic space. We draw strength from and cite the following landmark judgments. In Kanchori versus the National Police Service Commission and 3 others, at paragraph 62, the High Court soundly condemned the deployment of plainclothes police officers in unmarked vehicles to disappear or intimidate citizens, ruling that, given their mandate to serve all, why would police officers conceal their faces and identify and bundle people in unmarked vehicles? It is only criminals engaged in criminal activities who wear hoods and masks to conceal their identity and move in vehicles without registration plates or with false plates to avoid identification and accountability. While our courts continue to affirm the state's obligation to protect women, the reality on the ground tells a different story. Women leaders are still routinely targeted with intimidation and violence, including sexual violence. We note that the police failure to stop the goons at All Saints Cathedral Church, Kenya Human Rights Commission's office, and other reported community meetings, as well as the active harassment of civic leaders, including those from TISA, renders them personally liable for constitutional violations, with credible allegations that security agencies have coordinated with, facilitated, or protected such actors while simultaneously deploying masked, armed, and plainclothes officers to intimidate citizens. These actions and omissions amount to serious constitutional violations, and we demand urgent, independent criminal investigations into operational commanders and those exercising political authority over these operations.
My name is Nerima Wako, the Executive Director of Siasa Place. My name is Nerima Wako, the Executive Director of Siasa Place. Our demands. We refuse to be cowed into silence and demand the following. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations, that is DCI, and the Inspector General of Police must immediately halt the illegal tracking, surveillance, monitoring, and office raids directed at TISA's Executive Director and staff. Number 2, the National Police Service must officially account for the fleet of Subaru cars used on July 2nd, identify the officers in black suits, and state the legal basis for targeting civil society lawyers. Furthermore, the unmarked Subaru used for illegal apprehension of human rights defenders on July 7th in CBD must also immediately be investigated. Any officers found to have participated in unlawful operations must be subjected to criminal and disciplinary proceedings. Number 3, IPOA investigation. The Independent Policing Oversight Authority, together with other competent investigative authorities, must immediately investigate not only the July 2nd attempted raid on TISA, but also the broader pattern of coordinated attacks involving state-sponsored goons, masked and plainclothes security officers, unmarked vehicles, enforced disappearances, arbitrary arrests, torture, yes, torture, not self-abduction, torture, and the assaults on civic meetings, and the protection of afforded perpetrators. The investigations must identify those who planned, commanded, supervised, and executed these operations and recommend criminal prosecutions where appropriate.
Good morning, my name is Wangeshi. Good morning, my name is Wangeshi. I'm the Executive Director of the Independent Medical Legal Unit, that is IMLU, and also the convener of the Police Reforms Working Group. Our demands continue. The state must guarantee the safety of TISA staff, all civil society organizations, and human rights defenders, demanding accountability from the political class at all levels. At the same time, there must be immediate investigations into the grave violations that have already occurred, including assaults, enforced disappearances, arbitrary arrests, torture, illegal surveillance, office raids, and attacks perpetrated by state-sponsored goons and security personnel. Those who ordered, commanded, facilitated, or failed to prevent these violations, despite having a constitutional duty to do so, must be held individually accountable. And we want to emphasize that officers will be held individually accountable even as we pursue command responsibility. Any further violations committed against civic actors will constitute additional evidence of command responsibility on the part of the leadership of the National Police Service and other responsible state agencies. Should any harm, enforced disappearance, arbitrary arrest, unlawful detention, or extrajudicial action befall any member of TISA or the civil society at large, the leadership of the Inspector General of the National Police Service will be held personally and criminally responsible. The Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security in the National Assembly must convene urgent hearings to investigate the July 2 raid and broader intimidation of civil society. The Inspector General of Police, Cabinet Secretary of Interior, and IPOA should be compelled to testify under oath, provide full disclosure of operations involving Subarus and other unmarked and irregularly registered vehicles, and outline measures to protect civic actors. We stand, all of us here, in unyielding solidarity with TISA and the civic actors, citizenry and human rights defenders whose safety and security is being undermined by the escalating deployment and impunity of state-sponsored and protected goons. The Constitution protects our right to speak truth to power, and no amount of black suits, unmarked cars, or state-hired goons will roll back the democratic gains won by the blood and sweat of the Kenyan people. And I want to repeat that and emphasize that no amount of black suits, unmarked cars, or state-hired goons will roll back the democratic gains won by the blood and sweat of the Kenyan people. We invite the diplomatic community and development partners to monitor the unfolding situation closely and to publicly report on their ongoing attacks within the Kenyan civic space. This statement has been signed by over 180 human rights, civil society actors within the general space, and human rights defenders, community-based organizations, social justice centers, and the whole range of civil society actors. We thank you, and we will take questions.
Members of the press, for the question taking, we have the CJ Emeritus and the Executive Director of the Kenya Human Rights Commission. They will respond to any questions that are. And FIDA is here also. Yeah, so we are ready for questions. Please identify yourself and then shoot the questions today. Our FIDA Executive Director, CJ Emeritus, and KHRC Director.
What do you think this scenario is taking us back to?
Yes.
taking us back to the old days.
Thank you very much, members of the Fourth Estate. I've come here in solidarity with the TISA and other civil society actors who have and continue to be intimidated, harassed and intimidated. We have said this before, that we are in a state where the government is acting illegally. In fact, I could say that the Ruto regime has become a criminal enterprise. They are acting illegally, and that's why they are using unmarked vehicles. They are the police officers who are used even mask themselves, and they are in civilian clothes against the court orders that have required them to be in uniform with their police force numbers so that they are identified. A government which has nothing to hide does not act like that. There is no reason whatsoever why a government should be involved in acts of criminality and hide behind unmarked vehicles and masks. So that's what we are saying, that Kenyans as a whole, I want to appeal to you. We are slowly descending to the state of Haiti. Haiti started like this. Now, if you get government engaging goons to disrupt legal proceedings, including church worship proceedings, what are you telling the country? I want to appeal to all Kenyans that we stand up and say no to what is happening. If we don't do that, we are slowly descending into the state of Haiti, and we cannot afford to have that. Our constitution guarantees the right of expression, the right of assembly, the right to hold the government accountable. I mean, look at the meeting which was at All Family Cathedral. All Saints Cathedral. What was being discussed there is the finance bill, where the civil society and other members of the public came to give their views about the finance bill. And instead of allowing them to go on and complete, they are dispersed by wounds. What does that tell you? The government does not want to be held accountable. The government does not want to be questioned in whatever they are doing. We cannot have that. We must all defend our civic space, which is narrowing, and say no to the acts of goonism. You saw what happened in Kisumu yesterday. Members going to worship, and they are belted. I mean, wounds are coming there, some with pangas, and they are there. The police are doing nothing. You saw what happened in Nyahururu. 2 weeks ago, we were stoned in Keumbu. I escaped injuries. My car was smashed. All the window glasses were smashed. So what that started to tell you? That we are descending slowly to a state of anarchy, and we will all lose. Fellow Kenyans, nobody will be spared when this country fails. That one we must make very, very clearly. Thank you.
Let me add.
They were taken to court, and there was no file. There was no report of those who were taken there. That was a PR exercise, and it just ended. That tells you how we are operating. If you saw the clips, those people were operating alongside the police officers, and the police officers were like cheering them up, doing nothing about it.
Thank you. Just to add a few perspectives, my name is Davis Malombe, Executive Director, Kenya Human Rights Commission. First is to express my solidarity with our comrades at TISA for what they have been going through. This is also a situation we have also passed as Kenya Human Rights Commission. You have heard in the statement, we have also gone through a lot of situations. So, from Singapore, now we are going to 8, as the former Chief Justice has said. This culture of goonism is something we need to challenge, because what the regime is doing, having succeeded in capturing and frustrating the state institutions which are responsible for oversight, starting with Parliament, constitutional commissions. Now it's now going for spaces and actors who are independent, and they also do their civic work and also hold the government to account. We have seen that in the media, we have seen that in the civil society, and now we have also seen that in the opposition. So the state basically is creating a culture of dictatorship. To me, this is now going through beyond what we are calling sharing the civic space and the depression. Actually, we are going through autocracy. So we are having a regime which doesn't want to be able to account by anyone, from state institutions to civil society institutions to media and to others. And that's why now they are outsourcing the goons. Because initially, we have been experiencing state violence led by police, and you have now seen the new tactics where they are using Subarus and all manner of other mechanisms. But now goonism is because the state has discovered the level of accountability we are pushing on the police is really high. So now goons now becomes difficult to pursue. But we are reminding the regime that they still have the primary obligation to provide security to the country. So we are also going to hold them to account on this, but we are also calling out the individual goons. We are also coming for you individually. All those actors who are involved in the OSAN situation and others, we are also monitoring and also going to hold you to account. So basically what we are saying is there's not going to be any room where criminals, whether they are state institutions or they are informal militias, who are going to be causing violence against the people of Kenya. But now the crisis is also deepening, because as we go towards 2027, we feel the state also wants to create also a situation of instability, and we're not going to allow this to happen. So we have called for accountability, and also oversight institutions also have to do their work. So allow me to invite a colleague from FIDA to say something, and the two colleagues, Mwanase and from the Social Justice Centers also to say something. Wajira.
Thank you very much. My name is Sophie Kaibiria, Executive Director of FIDA Kenya. We are highly concerned by the intimidation and harassment women in leadership are facing. Especially now, we are pushing for civic participation and gender equality. We note with deep concern that the agencies in the state are not taking their time to ensure safety and security for our women. We can see now our colleague from TISA is undergoing intimidation and harassment, and the state has not stated anything in terms of protection for even women leaders who are out there pushing for gender equality. We call upon everyone, every agency, to come out and protect the Constitution. Gender equality is a provision within the Constitution. Everyone is allowed to act fairly, to participate fairly, to associate fairly within the civic spaces. So we are here in support of that. As FIDA Kenya, we will be watching and doing our reports to call the government into account and to call upon all the agencies to act upon their mandate. Thank you very much.
As Mathare Social Justice Center, we are here to not only be in solidarity with TISA and all civil society actors facing threats and intimidation, but also to tell the people of Kenya, we cannot allow to continue going down the drain of insecurity in our country. 2 weeks ago, kulikuwa na maandamano Kiamaiko. Wananchi wanauliza serikali, where is Zizo, where is Olo, where is Kiarie? And the retaliation from the government was killing 2 community members who are coming out to ask for accountability. This is something that we note with huge concern, that in Nanyuki, when community members are coming to reject the Ebola facility, the retaliation of the government is to kill, including a 17-year-old. So tunataka kuuliza Murkomen in particular, kama kazi ya interior security imekushinda, please step aside. Kenyans, we don't have to wait until 2027. Our country is regressing every other time. Constitutional gains that were fought for, that were died for, tunaona kila wakati, tunarudi nyuma. This is not the Nyayo era. We have a new constitution of Kenya, and I want to remind the young people of this country, bado mapambano. It must not end in 2024 when we stormed parliament. We still have a duty to come out and protect our constitution. Tekeleza katiba, tekeleza.
Tekeleza.
Tekeleza katiba, tekeleza.
Tekeleza.
We want to ask all duty bearers of this country, tafadhali tekeleza katiba. Na bado tunazidi kusema free Kiarie. We know that he's alive wherever he is, whoever is holding Kiarie. Please free Kiarie, free Olo, free Zizo, na tuzidi kupigania kutekelezwa kwa katiba yetu ya Kenya. Tekeleza katiba, tekeleza.
Tekeleza.
Asante.
So it's okay.
Good morning. Kwa majina naitwa Mwanase Ahmed. I think we are at a very dangerous crossroad. If we look across the East African region, Kenya is one of the last remaining hopes of a country that has some sort of democratic freedoms and constitutional protection. If we look at what's happened in Uganda, what's happening in Tanzania, Congo, Sudan, we realize that if we stop collectively, not only speaking up, but taking legal action and pushing by every avenue possible to hold the perpetrators of this violence, their accomplices, their commanders, those who turn a blind eye, accountable, Kenya will continue to slip into an extremely dangerous space. Now, if we look at some clear examples, at Parliament, when the enforced disappearance of 6 HRDs happened in broad daylight, the CCIO was present, the county commander was present, so these enforced disappearances are happening under the supervision of individuals. There's no disappearance or extrajudicial killing that happens without clear directives and orders from the command. So we must have accountability for those who watch, endorse, perpetrate, and assist in the violations that's happening today. We are asking also, why is it that the DPP is so fast to approve arbitrary trumped up charges such as treason, terrorism, but we're not seeing any officers, commanders being held to account for the violations that are happening now? Kama wameshindwa na kazi, si watoke. We have very capable Kenyans who can enforce the rule of law and the constitution. So we call upon all of the office bearers and duty bearers to do your job. Ni sisi tunawalipa na ni pia ni sisi ambao tutawakujia kisheria to hold you accountable. We will not be silent in the face of impunity.
Very well.